Pain heals. Chicks dig scars. Glory lasts forever.
Oh, welcome. First thing, you are not seeing video. I still feel like absolute. I mean, you're probably seeing Caitlin Clark video because I feel like absolute crap. My nose is crusty. My eyes look like a lobster had angry sex with a bull shark. Um, but I want to follow up on Nike now that the Super Bowl's over, right? Did that video recently where we learned that Nike is under investigation for certain hiring practices, which kind of fit in. Now, I know hiring and, endorsed athletes and all that is a little different, but go check out that video. See, I mean, there's a connection with Caitlin Clark when you get the Asia Wilson stuff in there as well. We had Sophie Cunningham calling out Nike for its treatment of Caitlin Clark. Now, for those of us that are, under 80, Nike, we probably don't remember a time where Nike wasn't the absolute dominant apparel, equipment, whatever umbrella term you want to use for them, um, supplier, obviously dominated by sneakers, but in sports, right? Although that really was they were a struggling company that bet big time on Michael Jordan, which I think we all know panned out pretty well for them. They are that giant giant in the room, right? The one that stomps on all the competition, that dwarfs all the competition, that snaps up any athlete that they want, that gets all the contracts with all the leagues and all the teams and all the players. And yet, despite being such a massive corporation and the player in athletics, company whose revenue for fiscal 2025, $46.31 billion. And now we are going to get to the absolutely shocking thing. You may have noticed if you watched the Super Bowl. Welcome back to the channel. Thank you for being here. Appreciate all your support. Hope you're having a fantastic day. Shout out, of course, to the 19. So, the reason I set that all up is because this is shot when you think about all that and then you put that into perspective of Nike's relationship with sports, with the Super Bowl being the premier event whose ratings are really only rivaled and beaten by the men's World Cup, which is coming this summer to America, by the way, as Mexico and Canada as well. You think, well, if there's one thing Nike will do, of course, it will advertise during the Super Bowl. And yet, and maybe it's because of the investigation, maybe it's because of other decisions that we make, because we all know that they've leaned more and more into, I don't even know if I want to call it politics so much as cultural issues, although I guess they all kind of go hand in hand, some more or some less, but there's definitely an overlap for that. So now look, there's no doubt advertised for the Super Bowl is insane. I think it's $8 million for a 30-second spot for this Super Bowl. But you heard that number I just gave you, right? $46.31 billion in revenue in fiscal 2025. And Nike said, nah, we are not going to run a single ad during the Super Bowl. Now, if you remember last year they released the You Can't Win, So Win campaign, which, to be fair, got a lot of attention, a lot of talk, and I guess apparently was very successful at it. There's a lot of people I know didn't like it because the slogan, the catchphrase, whatever you want to call it, is gibberish. You can't win, so win. I think it was supposed to be like a pro women sports thing going on. Caitlin Clark appeared briefly, very briefly. It's kind of wild looking back at it now and seeing Sha'Carri Richardson in there after what happened with her in the airport. But that's a story for another day. But again, despite over 46 billion in revenue, despite I believe and they're the NFL's exclusive supplier of uniforms, of sideline practice, base layer apparel, and all that for all 32 teams. Obviously, having a dominant presence on the field at the Super Bowl, and yet not a single advertisement. That is absolutely crazy. I'd like to know when the last time Nike did not have an advertisement at the Super Bowl. And yeah, we're going to tie that into Caitlin Clark a little bit more. Here's how, here's why. We all know, finally, finally, Nike did something that was just Caitlin Clark, right? Which, hey man, I always give credit where credit's due. I know you all know I do not like Nike as a company. I don't like their products. And it goes way back before they started anything that you would consider seriously political. But their ad, I mean, should have been 2 years ago, but their ad with Caitlin Clark from Anywhere, when you talk about what she's known for and how she got her fame and brought that attention to women's college basketball and the WNBA, perfect. Like, it's perfect. From Anywhere. Absolutely makes sense of Caitlin Clark. It was a fantastic commercial. I enjoyed it. I saw it multiple times, actually in the movie theater before previews. And yet, and they've got supposedly we've got the shoe finally coming out in 2026. And yet Nike doesn't run. I mean, they could, right? They didn't even have to do anything new for the Super Bowl. It's not that old of a commercial. They could have run that Caitlin Clark commercial during the Super Bowl. It makes perfect sense with where we are now. It makes perfect sense with the fact that they finally did something for her, that you've got the shoe supposedly dropping in 2026. I have not seen anything about a specific date, but I also haven't seen anything about it being delayed past 2026. So it's odd to me. Nike has not given a reason. It's odd to me that a company so connected to sports, again, supplier to all 32 NFL teams, right? Big presence at the Super Bowl. The sports, I guess we'll call them apparel company. How about that? Not running an ad during the Super Bowl at the same time when you finally released an ad for Caitlin Clark, the probably maybe not the most well-known female athlete in the world, absolutely the most famous, most well-known female basketball player in the world, and one of the most well-known athletes in the world. You probably have Simone Biles. Oh man, the Spanish soccer player whose name currently escapes me. Trinity Rodman's probably up there. There are a few, and of course, names now will be elevated because of the Olympics, which is the other thing. Let's look, if I may, detour for a second away from Caitlin Clark. Nike. You don't think Nike sponsors Olympic athletes? You don't think maybe this is a good spot to do something Olympics related when we have this is the opening of the 2026 Winter Olympics? And again, I mean, Nike not running an ad is absolutely bizarre to me. And yeah, I'm kind of trying to work through it a little bit as I talk to y'all about the reason. That's why I mentioned the investigation that's going on. We've got the Caitlin Clark situation. It doesn't make sense to me that Nike would forego running an ad during the Super Bowl. Now, I'm guessing that there's going to be things that they will do with the World Cup, like the only event that draws more than the Super Bowl. And that's coming, less than half a year. So that's probably a big thing for Nike. But again, they could tie the two together as well. So yeah, it's absolutely it's wild to me. And it's very interesting. The reason I bring it up and tie it to Caitlin Clark is because we saw the treatment with Nike with Caitlin. We see now that there's this investigation. We know Sophie Cunningham just called him out. So, it's not a secret. It's not just crazy Caitlin Clark fans who are making stuff up. Everyone sees what Nike has done to and with Caitlin Clark. So, and they finally get an ad, and they could have run that during the Super Bowl and didn't. I find that strange at best. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks so much for checking this out. Really do appreciate it. Smash the like button, subscribe to the channel. I will talk to you later.